The war in Ukraine has dominated the United Nations General Assembly in New York. In his speech, delivered virtually, President Zelensky said Russia must face just punishment for its aggression against his country. He called for a special war tribunal to hold Russia accountable and for a compensation fund to make it pay for the war. The new British Prime Minister, Liz Truss, promised to sustain military support for Ukraine for as long as it took. She said the international alliance remained strong and that threats by the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, would not work. Our UN correspondent Barbara Pletasher has the latest.
On the second day of the General Assembly, there were some strong calls for nations to stand firm in backing the Ukrainian resistance, made in great force by President Zelensky himself, who delivered a dramatic video address in which he called for Russia to be punished for stealing Ukrainian territory, he said, and for killing Ukrainian civilians.
A crime has been committed against Ukraine, and we demand just punishment. The crime was committed against our state borders. The crime was committed against the lives of our people. The crime was committed against the dignity of our women and men. The crime was committed against the values that make you and me a community of the United Nations. And Ukraine demands punishment for trying to steal our territory, punishment for the murders of thousands of people, punishment for tortures and humiliations of women and men, punishment for the catastrophic turbulence that Russia provoked with its illegal war, and not only for us, Ukrainians, but for the whole world.
Mr. Zelensky said he wanted peace, but that a number of conditions had to be fulfilled before it could be achieved, and that now was not the right time to have negotiations because the Russians weren't serious. He was speaking after Vladimir Putin announced that he would be mobilizing more forces. Many world leaders did call for talks to end the war because they want the war to end, but President Biden said that any resolution would have to be a just one, and that now was the time to unite and stand against Russian aggression.
The United States is also working closely with our allies and partners to impose costs on Russia, to deter attacks against NATO territory, to hold Russia accountable for the atrocities and war crimes. Because if nations can pursue their imperial ambitions without consequences, then we put at risk everything this very institution stands for, everything.
He also said that Vladimir Putin was threatening the institution of the United Nations itself because he had violated the UN Charter by invading a member state.
Barbara Pletasher reporting there from New York. Well, in the final speech of the day, the British Prime Minister, Liz Truss, criticised President Putin's decision to mobilise reservists to fight in Ukraine.
In Ukraine, barbarous weapons are being used to kill and maim people. Rape is being used as an instrument of war. Families are being torn apart. And this morning, we have seen Putin trying to justify his catastrophic failures. He's doubling down by sending even more reservists to a terrible fate. He's desperately trying to claim the mantle of democracy for a regime without human rights or freedoms. And he's making yet more bogus claims and saber-rattling threats. This will not work. The international alliance is strong, and Ukraine is strong.